Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Julie K here with a Shabby Chic birthday card process tutorial. Here I'm showing you the finished card. It has lots of layers of paper, trim, beads, and flowers along with embellishments. I also went ahead and decorated the inside. To get started on this project, you will need cardstock along with scrapbooking paper. I decided to use the Garden Fable collection from Prima. And I will also be die cutting using the Sizzix Tim Holtz ornate frame. I will also be adding some sort of vintage lady to the cover of my card, and these images come from Christie Art Designs on Etsy that I have printed off on my own printer. To begin with, cut light pink cardstock to 6 by 12 inches and fold it in half. I also like to corner around my edges, and I use a Crocodile 1/2 inch corner round punch. I'm going to cut my 3 layers of paper. They are 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, and 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. I also like to distress my edges of the paper and corner around the edges. And I use a close to my heart distress tool, but you can also use a scissors if you don't own this tool. I like to use self-adhesive tape or glue to add my layers to the cardstock. So now I've cut out the ornate frame from Sizzix and also one of the vintage ladies. I will also be blending the side of the vintage lady with some dark brown ink and a blender distress pad from Tim Holtz, but you can also use a makeup sponge if you don't own that. I'm going to glue down my frame, and I like to use this adhesive tack glue. I usually use a paper towel to wipe off any excess glue that leaks out. I'm going to attach the frame of the lady using foam tape. After this comes the fun part in decorating the rest of the card to make it look more shabby. To begin with, I'm going to add some pink trim around the vintage lady, and I'm going to adhere this using a hot glue gun. Now I'm going to add some lace to the bottom of the card. And some rosette trim that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. And I decided it needed a string of pearls also down here. So far I'm really liking how this card is turning out. Now I'm going to start adding some flowers to the side of the frame. And that white flower base that I'm using came from Art of Life Sheila here on YouTube. So thank you so much for that, Sheila. This little flat back trim also came from Sheila that I'm adding to the crocheted flower there. I'm going to continue embellishing with lots of different flowers from my collection. These are all paper flowers. And the majority of the white ones that I'm using on this card came from Sandy, who is Decorate Your Life here on YouTube. So thank you, Sandy, for that. I'm using them up and don't have very many of them left after this card. I always find that adding flowers to the Shabby Chic cards adds so much to them. And sometimes you get a little carried away with how many you add. But it's definitely a very fun process. This card is starting to look very shabby. I'm going to add some more of that pearl back trim that I received from Sheila. I also decided I needed to add a little wood veneer bird to my front of the card. And using this Distress ink from Tim Holtz is a fast way to paint your wood veneers. And I've attached it to the card using hot glue. I'm adding a few more little flat back pearls to the bottom of the card. And the front card is looking pretty close to being done, but I decided I needed to add a sentiment. And this rubber stamp I'm using comes from Graphic 45, and I'm using some archival ink. I will also blend in the ink around the edges just to make it look a little more vintage. I'm now going to attach using tacky glue from Eileen's. And the last embellishment I'm going to add is a key, and it did come from K & Company. Now I'm going to start working on the inside of the card using similar techniques that I did on the front of the card, corner rounding the edges and also distressing the sides. This first layer of cardstock that I'm using was 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I also cut out some layers using the Spellbinders Label 1 die and more of that Garden Fable Prima paper collection. I'm attaching another layer to the side. Again, using the same techniques of corner rounding and also distressing. I'm going to stamp a sentiment also on the inside. And it is a stamp from Rubber Stampede, and it just says Happy Birthday. It is an older stamp, and I've had it in my collection for about 20 years. I'm going to start adding the layers to the inside of the card. I'm going to attach the Happy Birthday layer with foam tape to make it stand up and pop out just a little bit. I decided to add some more flat back bead trim to the inside of the card just to make it a little more shabby. I debated about using lace also, but I just stuck with the trim. I also decided to add a layer to the inside cover. I really like this piece of paper, and I wasn't quite sure how I was ever going to use it on anything else, so that's why I decided to put it right where I'm putting it right now. I'm also going to decorate the back of my card and add a signature. I think adding signatures to any type of work that you do is very important. And I'm using a Stampability stamp that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. I'm going to attach the frame again using that same adhesive tech glue. I don't always decorate the backs of my card, but I decided to go ahead and decorate it this time. And to finish up the card, I'm going to add some glossy accents to the bird, and then I'm going to let it dry. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video today. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I hope you all have a great day. Take care, and I hope you'll stop by again.